It's a miracle. On this episode of the Global Atheist, we're going to talk about the supernatural, miracles, stuff like that. On the 17th of May 2024, the Office of the Doctrine of the Faith, the modern version of the Roman Catholic Holy Inquisition, issued a bulletin about procedure and how to decide something is supernatural. We are going to talk about that with Flabbergasted Rob. Hello.
Hi.
Paul Cammish and Cindy Plaza. Flabbergasted Rob, how are you?
Doing great. Happy to be back here.
Glad to meet you again. And Paul, how are you?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. I'm happy to be back. This is the second time I've been on, so I'm happy to be back. I hope that dog's not making too much noise. Has somebody got a dog out?
Yeah.
Barking so close at all.
We'll be fine. And hello, Cindy. Ça va?
Hey, yeah, I'm doing okay.
Okay. Did any of you read that document? I read a bit of it, but it's a bit wordy, so I got lost. Can someone introduce it?
Yeah, well, I had a quick look through it. I haven't had a chance to read all of it because I was reading it sporadically throughout different days and had a quick look through. And I've got to admit, when I first started reading it, I was thinking, is this serious? It's 2024, and do people actually still take this serious? I thought it was a bit of a joke until I started reading through it, and then I realised they were serious. And there was a couple of bits in there that I found, rather strange for 2024, to be very polite. There was one bit that actually got me, which the procedures outlined in the new norms, which offer 6 possible final prudential decisions, make it possible to reach a decision in more reasonable periods, helping the bishop to manage a situation involving events of alleged supernatural origins before such occurrences without a necessary, I can't pronounce that word, discernment, acquiring very problematic dimensions. Nevertheless, the possibility always remains that the Holy Father may intervene exceptionally by authorizing a procedure that includes the possibility of declaring the supernaturalness of the event, yet this is an exception that has been made only rarely in recent centuries. At the same time, as stipulated in new norms, the possibility of declaring an event as non-supernatural remains, but only when there is objective signs that clearly indicate manipulation at the basis of the phenomenon. For instance, this might occur when the alleged visionary admits to having lied, or have evidence shows that the blood on a crucifix belongs to the alleged visionary. So if somebody declares that they've got a supernatural event and they find out that they've lied, then that can be declared as not supernatural. Well, yeah, basically, because he's just admitted to lying. Or when the evidence shows that the blood on a crucifix, for example, belongs to the alleged visionary, so it's his blood. So, yeah, that would also be non-supernatural. But it doesn't tell you how to find out what is supernatural. That's the bit that I found strange.
Interesting.
And it's only very rarely, it's only rarely that you declare that it's not supernatural.
I mean, I chose the image behind me for, of course, one of those rather often claimed miraculous thingies, crying statues. Typically blood, but not necessarily. And that's been a mainstay of venerations for the centuries. I mean, I seem to remember that there are medieval statues still being venerated for being that, or for some time being that. The Black Madonna of Poland, there's one of them. I'm not a Roman Catholic, so I work from memory here. Does anything of this ring a bell to you?
The one that I remember wasn't that the Virgin Mary as well, statue of the Virgin Mary or something like that, where I can't remember if it was tears, but there was some sort of water coming from the statue, or it might have even been the feet or something like that, and people were drinking it, and then didn't they find out that it was coming from basically the toilet?
Oh,
Yeah.
I remember that.
Bad advice. Ooh.
Yeah, it was toilet water basically, and somehow there was a burst pipe, and it had got onto the statue, or it was leaking onto the statue. Which reminds me of anybody that's in the UK and that has seen Only Fools and Horses. There was a scene on there where the roof was leaking, and they declared it a miracle because the roof was leaking and basically it was dripping onto the Virgin Mary.
Yeah. I'm just working from memory here. I mean, in Italy, there are quite a few of statues that reportedly bleed or cry, or maybe both. I mean, the weird thing is, of course, that it's not particularly that. I mean, there may well be a natural explanation for that, but that's not the point. The point is people believe that something miraculous is happening there and go there to see it, and suddenly mysterious curings happen and stuff like that. And then we get into this lovely little document. Is it real or isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we could go through the guidelines if you want. That's in the document, and start off with the first one, which was the general guidelines, the nature of the discernment, and it states here: by following the norms below, the Church will be able to fulfil its duty of discerning whether signs of divine action can be ascertained, and a phenomena that are alleged to be supernatural origin, whether there is. Whether there is that anything conflicts with faith and morals in the writings or messages of these involved in the alleged phenomena in question, whether it is permissible to appreciate their supernatural fruits, whether they need to be purified from problematic elements, or whether the faithful should be warned about potential risks, whether it is advisable for the competent ecclesiastical authority to realize their pastoral values. So all they seem to be looking at there is whether it's going to, whatever this phenomenon is, whether it's going to be fruitful or not, whether they need to be purified from problematic elements, or whether the faithful should be warned about potential risks, and then whether it is advisable for the competent ecclesiastical authority to realize the pastoral value. So they're just looking at whether this phenomena is going to be of any value to the church or the people that are following it. That's what they're looking at. They're not looking at evidence of whether that's true. Certainly in not that passage that they've put out. I don't know what your thoughts are on that one.
Yeah, before we start talking about the document itself, I just wanted to point out a couple of things. First of all, this week I was having a discussion about US politics and the Constitution, and realizing that the Catholic Church, which is, let's say, 1,500 years old, has updated one of the most core tenets of their beliefs in 2024, while the US is still working with a constitution that's 240 years old and doesn't want to change it. That was kind of funny to me. But what bothers me with this document is something you guys touched on earlier, is to say they don't say what is supernatural exactly. And I think that's interesting because if we look at the document, basically it says if there's an event and we can't define what it is, well, then it's probably supernatural. And it doesn't say that exactly, but the tone is also to say, well, if there's something that diverts people's faith from the church, from our structure, then we need to bring them back by taking care of this event and appropriating it, basically. And I think that's the most important part to me of this document.
Yeah, I got a similar feeling when the bits that I was reading of it. It's more about what value it has, rather than investigating whether it's supernatural or not. They're looking at, is this going to be valuable to the church, or is it going to be a detriment to the church? If it's a detriment to the church, we've got to discourage it. If it's a value to the church, we don't discourage it. We might not say that it's supernatural, but we won't turn them away from this particular event due to the fact that it's not going to be a problem and it may still be valuable to us. And then I think it goes on in one part to say we may come back to it in the future to look at it and see what effects it's had. And if it's had a negative effect, then we can look at it that way. It doesn't tell you what's supernatural or not. It seems to be that we look at everything supernatural until we've got something to say that it's not. That's what it seems to be. Yeah. So everything that's said is supernatural. But however, if somebody's lying, then it's not, which clearly, obviously, if somebody's claiming that the blood on the cross is the blood of Christ or whatever, and we find out that it's their blood, then again, that's not supernatural. Yeah. Well, yeah, of course it isn't.
I mean, as I read it, again, I didn't read a lot of it, but what I did read essentially says if it's not completely silly, will accept it for being supernatural, even if there is a completely logical, scientific explanation. They don't seem to care much about other explanations.
No.
Yeah, for someone, or not someone, but for an entity that claims to be the guardian of the word of truth, they don't seem to be interested in the truth very much in this document.
That's such a good point. I mean, it's so incredibly vague. I mean, I was reading. Let's see, where is it? At the point, recognizing an action of the Holy Spirit. In the text, so it basically say that well, even if you can't say it's supernatural, you can stand in the crowd and say that this is the Holy Spirit acting in the midst of this whole thing, even if you don't declare the event itself to be of supernatural origins, there is still a recognition of the signs of the
Holy Spirit is involved somewhere.
Supernatural action in the midst of what is occurring. So it's such like they leave such a back door to say, well, we're not saying it's supernatural, but we can totally say it's supernatural.
The Holy Spirit is still involved. Yes.
Yeah. And it's like you said, Paul, it's just ridiculous. It's just such weird mental acrobatics. And sure, I've been an atheist all my life. I don't understand the mindset of the believers.
I know to some extent, but I mean, from a cynical point of view, miracle and sites like that, like for instance in France, Lourdes, makes a pretty penny. People traveling there are minor industry.
Yeah.
I mean, as I understand it, hundreds of millions of people have traveled there. Because
Yeah, it's business.
presumably Mother Mary had an apparition there. And I mean, I don't know anything about that, but people believe it.
Yeah, one of the two children that were visited by Mary, something like that, in a cave. I can't remember
something like that.
things about it. But yeah, there's been a few of them type of things, I think. And like you say, the different shrines that have had some sort of supernatural event around different shrines and things.
I mean, there's quite a lot of churchy things going on. But when I grew up in Jena, in a Roman Catholic part of the Netherlands, let's say collections or something like that for sick people to travel to Lourdes for what they hope would bring a cure were common.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's still common, isn't it?
Yes,
is it done every year, that travelling to Lourdes, is it?
Oh, no. It goes on all summer.
Oh, right. Okay.
Again, I don't know details, but it definitely was a thing when I lived there. I didn't keep up, so I don't know if it still is, but presumably, because as I understand it, there are still droves of Roman Catholics going there, it's still a thing.
I don't know what we want to do now, whether we want to just go through the general guidelines now, shall we?
I mean, it's not rather wordy, so maybe go to the, let's say, things to keep your mind when you try to discern this is fake or this is a miracle bits.
I don't think it says how to determine which is which. Like I said, I've just read that last one out, and then the next one from that it's while following provisions foreseen the possibility of a discernment in the sense described in paragraph 10, which is above. It must be noted that as a general rule, it is not foreseen in these norms that ecclesiastical authority would give a positive recognition of the divine origin or alleged supernatural phenomena. So on that one there, it's actually saying it's would give a positive recognition. It is not foreseen in these norms that ecclesiastical authority would give a positive recognition of the divine origin of alleged supernatural phenomenon, but it wouldn't necessarily deny it, is what it's saying there, basically. Whenever a nil obstant is granted by the dicastery, whatever that is, such phenomena do not become objects of faith, which means the faithful are not obliged to give assent of faith to them. Rather, as in the case of charities, I don't know what that is, organizations by the church, they are ways to deepen one's knowledge of Christ and to give oneself more generally to him, while rooting oneself more and more deeply in communion with the entire Christian people. It doesn't really say a lot, does it?
Wordy.
Yeah, it's just word salad, all of it, pretty much.
Yes, and I mean, I read in this essentially, unless people get to conclusions that we don't like, go with it.
Well, after you get from that, it goes to the conclusions there. So the discernment of alleged supernatural phenomenon may reach conclusions that are usually expressed in one of the terms listed below. Nihil obstat, without expressing any certainty about the supernatural authority of the phenomenon itself. Many signs of the actions of the Holy Spirit are acknowledged. This is what you were saying, in the midst of a given spiritual experience, and no aspects that are particularly critical or risky have been detected. At least so far. For this reason, the discerning bishop is encouraged to appreciate the pastoral value of this spiritual proposal and even to promote its spread, including possibly through pilgrimages to a sacred site. So even if something isn't declared as supernatural, it can still be used for people to go to a pilgrimage. You're not discouraged from it, basically.
Yeah.
If it gives spiritual experience and no aspects are particularly critical or risky have been detected. So if there's nothing critical of the church and there's nothing risky that's been detected, at least so far, for this reason, the discerning bishop is encouraged to appreciate the pastoral value of this spiritual proposal and even to promote its spread, including possibly through pilgrimages to a sacred site.
Yeah.
Yeah, those different conclusions, except for maybe the curature, which says while various or significant critical elements are noted, at the same time the phenomenon has already spread widely and there are verifiable spiritual fruits connected to it. This is the only place where they say, yeah, there is some supernatural basis. Other than that, the other conclusion to pretty much not grant the fact that there was supernatural or that it shouldn't be revered or used as basis for belief. And at some point, it even says, where was it? Yeah, in this situation, a ban that could upset the people of God is not recommended. Nevertheless, the diocesan bishop is asked not to encourage this phenomenon, but to seek out alternative expressions of devotion and possibly reoriented its spiritual and pastoral aspects. So, yeah, it's all about control. It's not about truth. It's not about faith. It's not about anything else. It's only about control. That's all it talks about.
Yeah. It struck me that when they talk about things that is a risk to the church, I wonder what they actually mean, because my interpretation is that something that's a risk of being demonstrated as a fraud or a natural phenomenon.
That's pretty much what they mean.
But I wonder if they have some rationalization for what they mean, even if it under the layers that's what they mean. I wonder if they have for themselves some other explanation of what risky means.
Well, to be fair, unless I'm mistaken, it doesn't say a risk to the church. It only says a risk. So I don't know if they mean a risk to the public order or risk to the church. I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt on this one. But yeah, for the most part, it is all about control.
Yeah, because the next one says, while various or significant critical elements are noted. So if the notice various significant critical elements, at the same time, the phenomena has already spread widely and there are verifiable spiritual fruits connected to it. So if there's a positive thing coming from it, even though they can criticize what it is, what's happened, but the phenomenon has already spread widely and there are verifiable spiritual fruits connected to it. In this situation, a ban that could upset the people of God is not recommended. So even if they know that something isn't true, but it's looking like it's having beneficial fruits to the people that believe in it, then it's a ban that could upset the people that believe this is not recommended. Nevertheless, the discerning bishop is asked not to encourage the phenomenon, but to seek out alternative expressions of devotion and possibly revariate its spiritual and pastoral aspects. So again, even though they know something isn't necessarily true, if they're seeing fruits coming from people believing it, they're not really going to discourage it and actually outright say that no, this is not true.
This sounds like if
It
enough
depends
people
on the
believe.
fruit. Yeah.
This sounds like if enough people believe it, it's real.
Yes, and people or the bishops are noticing that the people that are believing it, they're getting some sort of benefit from it.
Okay. I mean,
Yeah,
it gets me a bit giggly. How can presumably grown-up men decide that this makes sense?
Yeah, I mean, look at number 21 there. Prohibitor et obstruator. To prevent further confusion or even scandal that could erode the faith of ordinary people. I mean, they're pretty much saying it straight out. Okay, we need to have the everyday simple people believing this.
Yes, of course they do.
It's right there. I just don't. I can't get my head around this. How people don't see through this.
I mean, very few people will actually read this, but
Yeah, I'm not sure many Catholics are going to read it, but
I guess it's. I'm flabbergasted.
yes, you are indeed.
I just noticed the next one, number 22. So this is basically if they're going to declare that it's not supernatural. In this situation, the dicastery authorizes the diocesan bishop to declare that the phenomenon is found not to be supernatural. This decision must be based on facts and evidence that are concrete and proven.
That's the worst.
For instance, if an alleged visionary admits to having lied, no, really, or if credible witnesses provide elements of proof that allow one to discover that the phenomenon was based on fabrication. It's madness, isn't it? So that's the bit where they're only actually talking about real facts and evidence is when you're going to declare that it's not true. Well, what about the facts and evidence that it is true? Shouldn't we be looking at that?
Yeah.
As well. It should be equally both, shouldn't it?
Yes. I mean, that's how rational people work.
Amazing.
Yeah, the thing is, if you read the presentation before at the very beginning of the document, it says so basically it says that God is present and active in our history. There's been events and those events have led to a great richness of spiritual fruits, growth in faith, blah blah blah. At the same time, in some events of alleged supernatural origin, there are serious critical issues that are detrimental to the faithful. In this situation, the church must respond with utmost pastoral solicitude. In particular, I am thinking of the use of such phenomenon to gain profit, power, fame, social recognition, or other personal interest, even possibly extending to the commission of gravely immoral acts, or the use of this phenomena as a means of a pretext for exerting control over people or carrying out abuses. I mean, the irony is dead here. Like the organization that raped and abused I don't know how many thousands of children through the belief and the superstition that goes around. It says that at the very beginning of the document, and that's the basis for determining whether or not those things are supernatural in nature. And so, yeah, it's just so ironic.
Yeah, basically that one's saying that as long as the power stays with the church and doesn't, so the individual who comes out with, this phenomenon has happened, if they're growing in fame rather than the church, then that's, it's not encouraged.
Yeah.
Basically, the church wants to keep the power.
Yes,
if somebody says that this is a miracle that's happened to me, and it throws them into the limelight and is going to throw them into fame due to this act, then that has to be discouraged, because it's not about that. It's fruitful.
It even says that. Profit. I mean, let me tell you, there's quite a bit of profit in a miracle.
Yes, there'd be a lot of profit in a miracle.
Yeah.
Yeah, like how much money does this church in Italy that supposedly shows the Shroud of Turin? How much money do they get from visitors every year? So how is it any different?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's what that piece was saying, that if it's
Turin, you mean? Yeah.
If it's moving the power to the person who is declaring this a miracle or first came across it, then that's discouraged.
I mean, Shroud of Turin, never mind about the thing itself. I mean, it's medieval forgery, that's a fact. But yes, many thousands of people go to Turin to at least be close to it. I don't know if it's even on display.
There's also a passage that says, when considering such events, one should not overlook, for example, the possibility of doctrinal errors, an oversimplification of the gospel message, or the spread of a sectarian mentality. Finally, there is the possibility of believers being misled by an event that is attributed to a divine initiative, but is merely the product of someone's imagination, desire for novelty, tendency to fabricate falsehood, mythomania, or inclination towards lying. So I suggest that now we start reading the Bible from the beginning and apply these.
Let me tell you, that was a rather
what I just read to everything that's said in the Bible, and question whether it's the product of someone's imagination, desire for
Yes, of course it is.
tendency to fabricate falsehood, or inclination towards lying. Like I said, it's so the irony in these documents is just so funny.
I mean, there is a bit of that. You're so close to actually understanding what you're talking about, but not getting it to the lot that, yes, your beliefs are silly.
Yeah.
Maybe, I mean, I'm quite confident that many Roman Catholics are convinced that many of their beliefs are silly. I lived close to Catholics, and few I had a real conversation with made it clear that, now, of course, we don't believe all the silliness. At best, we believe that there is some created God that we are supposed to believe in. But I'm not really taking it or putting much effort in it. That is the ordinary belief of a Roman Catholic in the Netherlands.
Mm.
I mean, not all of them, of course. Some of them are really, really devout. And assure me they believe it.
I'll just read in here where it says about the recent revision. After the 1978 norms we put into practice, however, it became evident that decisions took an excessively long time, sometimes spanning several decades. In this way, the necessary ecclesiastical discernment often came too late. In the revision of the 1978 norms began in 2000. The revision of the 1978 norms began in 2019 and involved various consultations envisioned by the then Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith. As who it was. During the subsequent 5 years, several proposals for revision were made, but all were considered inadequate. What? And you don't consider this one inadequate? So this is the revision of that draft because it was taking too long to come to decisions. But then this doesn't really give you a clear guide of how to actually get to the decision of whether something is supernatural or not. I can't find a guide to say which.
As I understand it, it's a commission of priests which needs to contain a theologian and a scripture type and some other people, I think 5 or 7, and they are a investigation commission. Essentially, they have the final word on it's a miracle or it's common.
I think it's more narrow than that. It's just because it says somewhere at the end. Give me a second. Where was it? Yeah, in light of the aforementioned points, it is reaffirmed that, as a rule, neither the diocesan bishop nor the Episcopal Conference nor the dicastery will declare that these phenomena are of supernatural origin, even if nihil obstati is granted. It remains true, however, that the Holy Father can authorize a special procedure in this regard. So basically, this document says that there is a procedure to for those 3 elements: the bishop, the conference, or the dicastery, to analyze the impact of the event. But if the impact is strong and if the event is not disproven by anything, and there is no evidence of lying or anything like that, then the Holy Father can authorize a special procedure in this regard. So it's true that it's a bit weird to have a document called Norms for Proceeding in the Discernment of Alleged Supernatural Phenomena, and the conclusion says we do not we do not make that decision. But yeah, we need to keep things in the context of that's not the purpose of the document. Purpose of the document is to give guidelines to bishops and episcopal conferences to deal with the events and the devotion that it generates, not with the investigation of whether it's supernatural or not.
Yeah, I think you're correct in that.
Yeah, it does look like they've addressed one part, though, because reading one part, it looks that in the previous document, if a bishop, bishops have wanted to make statements such as, I confirm the absolute truth of the facts, and the faithful must undoubtedly consider as true. So up until this coming out, if a bishop was to say that this is a miracle, then basically the faithful must undoubtedly consider this as true. And then it states that these expressions effectively orientated the faithful to think they had to believe in these phenomena, which sometimes were valued more than the gospel itself. So it looks like they might be addressing that part. It looks like, to me, reading it, that they're not going to declare it. It's in the first part. It's reasons for the news. Despite the clear, it says despite this clear stance, the actual procedures followed by the dicastery, even in recent times, were still included towards the bishop making a declaration.
This whole passage is saying we used to do this and it was not okay, so that's why we need the new norm, and the new norm says we do not do that. So
so I suppose it is an improvement, because it looks like in this new document there's going to be less things that are going to be declared supernatural than there were in the past. That's what I'm reading from it. It doesn't mean you discourage people from believing it necessarily, but they're
just
declare it.
They're not being formal about it and official about it.
Yes, that's what it looks like.
No, we're not saying it's supernatural, but go ahead and believe it.
We're not saying it's not, but
exactly.
It's not a miracle, but it's a miracle.
Yep.
It's not a miracle, but we can see the Holy Spirit working in this.
So if you believe it's a miracle, that's fine.
Yes. Unless it has a negative effect, then it's not fine.
That is not.
And unless you start creating a business around it, and we cannot get a percentage of it,
and selling little statues of it. Yeah.
For instance, Lourdes, I read 200 million people traveled there from whenever that started around 1900 till now. There's quite a bit of people spending money.
Yeah, I mean, the whole document is just totally confusing to me. It really is. I'm trying to go through it now, and I'm just finding it so confusing. It doesn't.
Yeah, it's so convoluted. I mean, it's not. No non-church person can read it and understand what they're actually saying, and I'm not sure that even church people would understand it.
I cannot really say.
Do you think it might be written that way on purpose, so that believers can pick and choose what they want to believe inside, just like they do in the Bible?
That may well be the case. I mean, in general, think that fabricating a supernatural thing under these rules won't be too difficult.
Yeah, it's more about evaluating what the consequences of believing a certain thing have, rather than looking at whether the event has got any truth to it whatsoever. It says here, if the phenomenon in question can be easily managed within the scope of those directly involved, and if no danger to the community is perceived, the diocesan bishop, after consulting with the dicastery, shall take no further action, although the duty of vigilance remains. So basically, take no action, but be vigilant and see what the outcome is of people believing this. And then if it becomes a problem, that's when they get involved.
Yeah, I mean, roughly build one of these nice statues with occasional outpouring of blood. Get people to believe something is happening there, and you make money from it, you pay the priest a bit, you're good.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that when you get to the point that hundreds of people travel to see it and pay, of course, for privilege.
I thought it was interesting that in the short article that we got first from BBC, that just sort of tells about this document. There they write some of the themes addressed in this in new guidelines are when are reports of weeping statue fake news? How credible is the claim that a holy relic led to miraculous healing? And how should a divine apparition be confirmed? But I can't see anywhere where they actually discuss that in the text. They never discuss exactly how do you confirm a divine apparition.
Yeah, I don't think you do. What you do is evaluate whether it's going to be beneficial for people to believe this, or whether it's going to be a detriment to the church if people believe this.
Yeah.
And it seems like they make the decision on that rather than the truth of the claim.
Yeah, it
They're
does.
more looking to see whether is this going to have a benefit if people believe this, or is this going to be a detriment if people believe it? And you make your judgment on that. And I was reading one bit there that it basically says that you can evaluate it when a legislative will involve various types of objects.
Yeah. And I mean, in the first line of the introduction, Jesus Christ is the definite word of God, the first and the last. He is the fullness and fulfillment of revelation, etc., etc. I mean, they're just stating, okay, this is what we believe in, and it doesn't matter what these apparitions or supernatural claims, what they are. They're not interested in truth. Like you said, it's confirmation bias.
Yes.
Well, to be fair, the purpose of a church is not to prove that their belief is true, is to spread that belief.
It should be. But
yeah, I mean, let's be fair. They clearly believe this sort of thing happened, so I suppose they're not looking for confirmation because they already pre-believe it's true anyway.
You need to start from a baseline, right?
The Roman Catholic Church claims to tell the truth in everything it says and does. I mean, going by the principle that truth cannot defeat another truth, there is quite a bit of we can disprove that. I mean, assuming that observation beats doctrine. But that's something that this document will not touch. It isn't about doctrine, it isn't about beliefs, it is useful for us that people believe it.
Yeah. I like that they also state that there will be no new public revelations before Christ returns. So they pretty much have put in a clause that says that any new church or prophet or priest or whatever that comes and say, hey, I got a revelation from God, you can just say, no, you're wrong. So they sort of built in a mechanism to remain the what they think is the sort of final word on God.
The church, the Roman Catholic Church, that is, firmly believes that they are the final word on, at least the final word of this month, on the truth.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a
But I
moving
mean,
target
because
over the
there's
years.
nothing in the Bible, as far as I know, that states that the Bible and Jesus is the end all be all revelation and fulfillment. That's just a doctrine that the Catholics have made up and accepted.
Yes.
So and again, it seems quite clear that yes, this is a mechanism to prevent other later churches from getting out and giving their view on things.
Yeah. Avoid competition.
Yeah, and there's one here that says if the phenomena involves the body and blood of the Lord in the sacramental signs of bread and wine, special care should be given so that any analysis of the something or other species do not result in disrespect for the blessed sacrament, ensuring that due reverence for it is maintained. Yeah, because if you put that to the test, you're going to find that that isn't the blood of Christ. So, yeah, that one won't be tested. If the extraordinary event involves our findings of organic nature that require special laboratory and, in any case, technical scientific investigation, the Commission will entrust the study of these elements to genuine experts in the relevant area of the investigation. Do you know of any scientific investigation that investigates this sort of stuff?
Well, the
experts, genuine
they
experts.
have made tests on the Shroud of Turin, for example, but I'm not sure if they were instigated by the church or not.
Oh, when they did the radiometric dating.
Yeah, as I understand it, those were respected laboratories in the field of radiometric dating.
Yes, and they weren't just sent to one; they were sent to several laboratories, weren't they? And they all came to the same conclusion.
Yes,
yeah.
I mean,
and it dated about 1300.
Yes, 1300s.
Yeah.
And it's not just radiometric dating that they've done. They've done like paint pigment analysis and cloth analysis and various things.
I mean, it's quite simply a medieval forgery. And if it was the way, or if it was made to be a forgery, I think it is, but that's debatable, but a forgery nevertheless.
Yeah.
And it's definitely not something that was in any way connected to Jesus.
Yeah.
I mean, the Roman Catholic Church find this kind of stuff. I mean, they're a bit weird about that. I mean, they gave permission to do this investigation. Bits could be taken from it and stuff like that. I sort of admire that. I mean, it's a really, really, really popular relic. And so letting go of it, authenticity takes guts. I mean, don't get me wrong, quite a bit of ordinary miracles that the church believes are real and supernatural things still, I mean, they're more or less canon. I don't know what word for that is, but widely agreed to be the thing.
Well, yeah, the Shroud of Turin is roughly 100 years older than the first stories of the Holy Chalice, and yet in both cases, some people believe they're real. They were both made up in the early second millennium, and yet people believe they are attributed to 1,000 years prior to that. So,
yeah, and like you say, the Shroud of Turin, it doesn't matter how much investigation is done, how much we can test it. They're never going to believe that it's not what they want it to be. You're never going to change their mind, no matter what evidence you bring to it, that this is not the shroud that covered Jesus. They're just not going to believe it. It's going to make no difference. It's almost for them.
As I understand it, in Turin, the cathedral, I think, is where it resides. Again, I don't know if it's on display, but it's there. And still, thousands of people go there to see whatever it's being displayed.
Yes, and I think that's a perfect example, really, as well, of what this document is saying, because I don't think the Catholic Church openly claim that it is the shroud that covers Jesus, do they? They see the benefits of it, but I don't think they declare. I don't think the Church actually declares it is. I think it's just the people that believe it. I don't think the Church. Somebody will have to look that up, but I don't think the Church, it has the Church's blessing as such, as the shroud that covers Jesus. I might be wrong on that, but that's what I'm led to believe.
I don't know.
The Catholic Church doesn't officially recognize it as a real.
I didn't think it did.
Yeah.
I didn't think it officially recognised it. No, it's still it has it on display, and people can come and see it. And basically, that's up for them to believe it. It doesn't say that it's not, but it doesn't promote it.
Yeah.
Well, it's perfectly.
Pope Francis has instead called it an icon of a man scourged and crucified. Oh, gee, I wonder who they're referring to.
Who would that be?
Yeah, but they won't actually come out and say it, will they?
It's perfectly in line with what we
just
read tonight. Yeah, it's just if we can use it, then use it. If we can prove it, at least we can use it.
Yeah, so that's that's a perfect example using the shroud. The Church is getting a benefit from that. They can see the benefits of people believing it, so they don't discourage it. They don't give it its stamp of approval and authenticate it as such, but they allow people to believe it. Now, if something was to happen that was not beneficial to the Church and was probably even quite bad toward the Church, I think that's when they come out and say, no, we don't accept this as a miracle. If it's got negative effects, they won't accept it. If it's got positive effects, they might not declare it a miracle, but they won't say that it's not, because they're getting the benefits from it. Yeah.
Hello, nu har vi haft paus. Ja, det är lugnt. Ta det lugnt.
Hang on.
Ja.
We've got some extra guests.
Yes, we do indeed. No problem. Will you excuse me for a little distraction? I need a toilet break. I'll be back soon.
Okay, that's fine. So it looks like it's just me and you, Cindy.
Yeah.
I'll see if I can have a look and see if I can find something. I'll just got to get rid of this advertisement on me thing. See if I can find anything else.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
Yeah, I have to wrap up soon.
Yeah, I think we've been going about an hour anyway, haven't we? And to be honest, there isn't actually a lot really to say about the document?
No, I think we covered it pretty extensively, and yeah, the Shroud of Turin, as we said, was a very good example of this tendency to appropriate anything, and it's in line with the total history of the Catholic Church. They've been appropriating pretty much everything, like the Christmas tree. It's an appropriation. The Christmas party is also the celebration. It's an appropriation. Pretty much everything in this religion is appropriated from another culture. Even some stories in the Bible are appropriated from previous religious texts. So, yeah, it's just par for the course.
Yeah, I mean, the last part of the document, basically, it says what we've just mentioned there, that basically they monitor it. If the alleged supernatural phenomenon can be traced with certainty to a deliberate intent or bewilder and deceive others for ultra motives, such as for profit or other personal interest, the diocesan bishop will apply on a case-by-case basis the relevant canonical penal norms in force. So if somebody, like, again, this is what we're saying, if it's not benefiting the church and it starts benefiting the individuals, that's when they will get involved. And then it says, regardless of the final approved determination, the diocesan bishop, either personally or through a delegate, must continue to watch over the phenomena and the people involved exercising this ordinary power. And then if the alleged supernatural phenomena can be traced with certainty to a deliberate intent to bewilder and deceive others for ultra motives such as for profit or personal interest, then the case will be looked at again and it'll be said as not true, basically.
But it's fine if I'll have a bit of that.
Yes, if the church is seeing a benefit for it for the members and itself, as it does with the Shroud of Turin, it doesn't discourage it. Is basically what it. Yeah, it's not going to discourage anything that is showing a benefit either to the people spiritually by believing it, or showing a benefit to the church, like the Shroud of Turin. It's bringing people in to go see it. So that's. Until it's a negative thing for the church, it's never going to be discouraged. It's only if if a negative effect is seen that something will be discouraged. I think what's going to happen here is less and less are going to be declared as a miracle. They're rather going to be, well, it's fine. We're not saying it's not, but we're not saying it is. But if it's a benefit, then it'll be encouraged.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe they rely more on canonization of people, because people's image can be utilized, can be used much more freely, because look at what's the name?
Last few popes have been very busy in that respect.
Yeah. You can say that someone did something. It's much easier to prove when it's just statements that are 20, 30 years old. The person is dead, and everyone who was around is dead. It's much harder to disprove. Whereas when you have an event like this, like a statue crying, if it happens today, then you will have cameras, you will have pictures, you will have people getting there much faster. So yeah, I think canonization is probably going to be happening more often than miracles.
I think really in 2024, if a church was to declare something a miracle, I think it would probably have more of a detrimental effect on the church to normal everyday thinking people. They're just going to laugh at it when a church declares something a miracle. The majority of sane thinking people just laugh and can see how ridiculous it is.
And I think
and
Roman Catholics do so as well.
Yes.
The thing is, everything that happened and that was or is still deemed as a miracle is well, it could be unexplained at the time, but now to find something that cannot be explained and that can be qualified as a miracle, the list is much smaller than it was before. Like you could have someone walking on water, and only people seeing it from afar and saying it's a miracle. Now we will have cameras, and it's much harder, I think, now to claim this, because most of the things that we used to attribute to divinities are now explained by science. And
Yeah.
It's an example that the walking on water is quite an interesting one. I live on the coast, so I was brought up in a small fishing town, and quite often in summer you'd get sandbanks that would move, so you could go quite far out where the water would literally be above your head, and you'd swim out, and then you'd get onto a sandbank, and from the shore you could get stood up and you could walk, and it seriously looked like you were walking on water. So anybody who's not from the coast and doesn't understand how sandbanks work, it'd be very easily to trick somebody to say I can walk on water. And you get out, you're up to your waist, and somebody can't swim very well, for instance, and you take them out and they're starting to get beyond their depth. They aren't going to go any further. You swim out even further, so to them mentally they're thinking it's got deeper underneath you, and then suddenly you start to rise up out of the water. It's something you've actually got to see. It looks absolutely so supernatural when you do it, and you walk out of the water and you're 50, 60 meters out into the water, and then you just get up and walk. It's brilliant. But you've got to be very careful when you see them sandbanks, because you can get what you call a rip tide. And as the tide starts to go out, instead of the tide going straight out, what it'll happen is the water around the sandbank will start to go to the side. So as you're trying to get back, it literally takes you around the sandbank and takes you out. I mean, it was very dangerous what we were doing. If you did it when the tide was coming in, don't go out to a sandbank when the tide's going out, because it'll just rip around the side of the sandbank and it'll suck you straight out to sea. I've been caught in the rip tide before. It's absolutely frightening.
Yep, been there.
Yeah, have you done that, have you? Yeah.
Yeah.
It can be frightening.
We have huge mud flats in the north of northern provinces that go with the North Sea, and an inland tide system there, the Randolf. It's absolutely brilliant, but that's a dangerous thing indeed when the tide goes out.
Yeah, unless you've experienced water, a lot of people don't realise just how powerful water is. It's it has a terrific amount of power if you get caught in water that's moving. But like I say, I think most things that are deemed as a miracle, they can all be explained to a certain degree. Especially nowadays, you can come up with a logical, reasonable explanation to this miracle and going straight away to the supernatural. Which is why I was hoping that this document would actually tell us how they actually get to the conclusion that it's supernatural, but it doesn't contain anything like that. It's more to do with whether it's beneficial or not, rather than the truth of the matter. But it looks like they're avoiding declaring something a miracle. It looks like they're getting to that point where they don't want to take that extra step and declare it. They can do in certain circumstances, but it says that it's quite rare for them to do that, or it's going to be very rare for them to do that. But however, instead of declaring it a miracle, what you can do is explain about how the Holy Spirit is involved in it, and still you're still encouraging people to believe in it rather than say that it's an actual miracle.
And still monetize it.
Does what? Sorry.
And still monetize it. And make money from it.
Yes. Yeah, that's what it's saying. It's basically saying, look at it, and if it's got a positive, if it's a positive effect on the church and the people that believe it, then yes. If it starts to having a negative effect on the church and people are clearly trying to make a profit from it by declaring this a miracle, then you move away from it and discourage people from believing it. It depends who's getting the money and who's getting the fame.
Exactly. Any final thoughts on miracles and stuff like that?
It wasn't a final thought. It was my initial thought when I first started reading it. I couldn't believe in 2023 that this was a thing, that we're looking at miracles and taking it serious. So yeah, I was rather taken aback by it that people in 2023 actually believe this rubbish.
Yeah, I was thinking the ancient aliens or aliens line from History Channel. We're not saying it's supernatural, but it's supernatural.
Yeah.
That was my first and final thought, I think, about this.
Yeah, I didn't have anything more to add to this. We've said a lot about this, and yeah, to me it's just like a fish when you put it out of water and put it on land, it starts moving a lot, like frantically, because it's trying to survive as much as it can. Well, it felt the same here. It's like the last gaps of breath that the dying thing is trying to get.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you for joining us for this conversation. Thank you for your contributions. Thank you to our viewers. Time to say goodbye.
Yeah, goodbye, everybody.
Yeah. Should we thank the